Welcome everybody to the City of Sunbury Parks and Recreation Committee meeting for February the 5th, 2025. It is about 5:31 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gauss,
Here.
Mr. Martin,
Here.
Mrs. Cooper is absent. Two present. We have quorum.
Okay. Let's go to the minutes from our last meeting, which was on January 8th.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Martin. You know, I don't believe I can second this because I wasn't here.
So one of the things you may have missed, we did have legal counsel do some research on whether or not a board member who is not present could move a motion, which you could do, and you certainly could vote on the minutes as well, if you're comfortable. If not, we'll just hold it until the next meeting. So
I did review everything, yeah, including what happened last meeting, and I don't see any issues with it. So I'm inclined to second it. Right? Okay, I'll second the motion, Mr. Martin's motion. Discussion? Anybody else? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
2 yeas, minutes passed.
All right. Visitor section is next on the agenda. I see a couple of reputable employees sitting out there, but I don't see any actual visitors. So I think we'll just move on to the unfinished business section. And first on the list is the Kinslow Disc Golf Signs.
So Nate Linton from Brand Tangibles reached out a while ago regarding the disc golf signs over at Kinslow Disc Golf Park. And he wanted to put some new ones out there. So I just included a before. So on page 4, that's what's currently out there. And then package page 5 is what he came up with for a new sign. So we just wanted to run it by the committee, get some feedback on him.
yeah, so maybe a couple of other important points. It does incorporate the city logo in the lower left-hand corner. The previous sign did not. It also did pick up the branding of the cupola in the triangle in the upper right-hand corner. It's faint, but it's in behind the Kinslow Park designation. So we, so that was one of the things we talked to them about, is trying to get a little bit more Sunbury branding in there.
Yeah. Would he be willing to enlarge those? And the lower left and the upper right, do you think? I'd like to see that.
Oh, we can enlarge
you,
them.
Mr. Martin.
Yeah.
It's down here. There's another one up here, but can't really see it.
Yeah, so maybe the one you're saying up in the upper right-hand corner, may just pull that out a little bit more. But the lower left-hand corner will definitely expand the size of that.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I like the idea of making it a little bigger, but I think they're good looking signs.
Yeah.
Very much so.
What are they made of primarily? Do we know? Is it wood or something else? Composite material or?
I believe aluminum.
Oh, aluminum.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this will be like painted on aluminum, something like that.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like a printed, it's like a street sign, basically.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Way to say it. Maybe another important point is, and Mr. Ghosh, you may not have been a member of the committee when we first talked about this. So this is being done at no cost to the city. This is a contribution being made by one of the partners that we work with over at Kinslow. Not sure exactly which group this is, but do you remember? Is it?
Flyers.
Oh, it's the Flyers. Okay. So, yeah, so just another thing. I think at one of the previous, maybe it was the events committee meeting, Mr. Capel was asking about investments that we might be making over near the disc golf course, because there's been a lot of activity going on over there. So this is just one more, attempt to kind of upgrade the facilities a little bit. But again, this one is done at no cost to the city.
I like the look of these signs because I went there with my son and my granddaughters one time. They played the course. And there were a couple of times when they got to the tee box and they just stood there looking around trying to figure which way they were supposed to go. And this seems to be a lot more, it'll explain it better, I think. So I
Mhm.
like the idea of that.
Assuming we approve, how quickly can they be installed? Do we know?
I think the only thing he's waiting on is approval. Once we get that, he can go ahead and start getting them printed.
And then that person will remove the existing signage,
Mhm.
install the new signage.
So is this on the agenda for tonight's meeting for council to approve it, or can it just be done with a motion and a second?
We don't have it on the council agenda. Didn't think that it necessarily required council approval, because there's no cost to the city. Yeah, and because we've talked about it in the committee, at least there's been consensus among the committee. So,
Did Miss Cooper have any, or did she sing any of this?
Yeah, she's
but she's been involved in the earlier discussions.
aware that it's
Yeah.
gonna be happening
Yeah.
yet, but.
Yeah.
Well, we can show this to her when she comes to the council meeting and
Yeah.
just get a nod from that, if that sounds like it works for you all.
Definitely works for us.
Okay, and then could we make a motion in the council meeting? I presume we could, couldn't we, or do we have to wait for the next
That's
part?
what he's saying, we don't
Parks
need to.
I don't believe that you need to.
We're not spending any money.
Right.
And.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
And it's a replacement of an existing sign. It's not really a new,
The committee.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
All right, well, good. I would have no objection either, so I think we'll just talk to Cindy and make sure she's okay.
Yeah, I like the look of it.
Mhm.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, very good. Let's go to the next item on the agenda. We got good old J.R. Smith design contract.
Yeah, so since our last meeting, or at the last meeting, we had talked about proceeding with the entire design and construction as a single project rather than breaking it into phases. So last year, a lot of discussion back and forth about whether or not to kind of how to proceed with the improvements at J.R. Smith Park. But after doing some financial analysis on the debt service costs, when we talked to the Parks Committee about that, it was either a month or two ago, I think felt comfortable that we could afford the full set of improvements. So what you have then in front of you today is a proposal from Verdantis. So Verdantis was acquired CT Consultants. So it's the same set of design professionals that we've been working with. But what you have in front of you is a proposal to basically provide for the design services. So I should add, we've already done the preliminary survey and the geotechnical review have been completed. Those were done last year. This contract will pick up with the information that's been gained by that. The first thing they propose to do is revise the master plan based upon the survey information that they have. They'll then undertake additional professional planning and engineering services to do the detailed engineering on it. It also includes preparation of the final bidding documents and the construction documents and bidding services. So they're going to get us all the way through to the selection of a contractor. And then it does also include construction administration services in here as well, which historically CT has provided this service to us in the past. It does not include the inspection component, so we'll probably have an inspection cost associated with that at the very end. There are a couple of things I want to pull out with respect to the proposal that just want to make sure that we're all still on the same page. In it, they've indicated that the splash pad will be designed as a flow-through system, not a recirculating system. I know we talked a lot about those two options when we were talking about the design originally. This one, I think at the end of the day, felt that the flow-through system was going to be the more long-term, efficient, and maybe perhaps the better option for maintenance services long-term.
Yes.
We also talked about the bathrooms, the restrooms. I think this came up, brought this up at the last meeting, Mr. Martin. In here, it does talk about that they could design for a 4-season restroom. But I think after talking through it more with our engineer and their team, I think we're leaning toward a 3-season heating facility, and then it gets closed down in the wintertime, winterized, just like the splash pad will be enclosed for that period of time.
So can we note somewhere that we would hire porta pots for the 3 months that it's not usable?
Yeah, I mean, if that's what we want to do, we'll make that
I would
a,
like to see that because there are people who are going to want to use the facility, use the park. And we don't want to discourage people because there's no place to go to the bathroom.
All
So
right, we
if we
will-
could plan,
Yep.
wrap that into the discussion, I would appreciate it.
we will do that. We can do that as an administrative matter, I think, so that's good. They do indicate in the proposal that, the design will be done 5 months after we enter into an agreement. So if this one will go to council and it's on the agenda for first reading this evening. We're not anticipating action, just introducing it to council this evening. But if it's approved at, say, the first meeting in March, 5 months out, so August-ish, they should be done with the design. We could go out to bid at that point and hopefully, and be able to select a contractor before the end of the year. But most of the work will probably be done next year.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because it takes us a little bit of time, just if others are using the park, to make sure that we can alert them to, its availability or lack of availability, if you will. The proposal is a not to exceed proposal. So if they don't put in, the number of hours, then we're not paying for that. But on total, it's a not to exceed $315,000 contract. $270,000 of that is for the design services, so just a little short of 8%. The bidding services is about 0.5%, and the construction administration ends up being about 1%. So you end up maybe just a little short of 9%, somewhere around 9% of the total cost, all in. So, and I think that's pretty consistent with engineering fees generally, so.
Our engineering team, have you guys reviewed it? What's your thoughts on these costs, the 315,000?
Jump up.
Yeah, I took a look at the design fees, and originally we had one draft that had a lump sum, so I did ask them to go back and break it down further so that we could actually see the line items for the different items. What city administrator Hennessy mentioned about that percentage, that approximate 9% in the industry, from a planning perspective, anywhere from 7 to 10% is very common. This type of work is specialized when you look at park work, so it's right in there. So I have no concern with the pricing.
Yes, and that 9% would be this 315,000 is 9% of that 4 million total projected cost.
That's based
4
off the estimated construction cost of 3.5 million.
3.5.
Yeah.
Okay, I just saw 4 million on this.
Yeah, they've
have
built
a
in a
contingency.
contingency, yeah.
They have a
The
contingency.
contingency was 20%, wasn't it? Yeah, 700,000. Yeah, 3.5, 700. Okay. Okay, so it sounds like everybody's in agreement. This is fair and reasonable then, right?
So just a couple of other things. Thank you, Carla.
Thank
On packet page 13, you have the current master plan for the park. So all of the phases that we've talked about,
Yes.
the pavilion, the splash pad, the playground, the walking trails, the half-court basketball, pickleball combination. It's got landscaping, it's got the entry features. So again, and then also the parking and the reworked asphalt pieces. So yeah, I mean, this is really, and it's got ultimately the connection over to the Ohio Dairy Trail, although,
Mhm.
that won't all be done. We'll have to do some more work to get the ultimate connection over there, and the trail at the moment doesn't extend for that period. That portion of the trail is not in place. So, but having said all that, I mean, and with Mr. Ghosh, you worked on this for a long time. This is really exciting. Hopefully you feel the same way.
Absolutely.
And we're within earshot or eye distance of this happening. So there you go. We've also included in the packet then some images of the amenities based upon the feedback that happened during the public comment period and what have you. So, I mean, these are not the final ones, but they do represent what is envisioned and planned to be designed.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very exciting. It's been a number of years we've worked on this, and it's great to get to this position. I'm just since I've been out about a year and a half, and just wondering, what's the planning for the funding again for the 3.5?
Yeah, so we would anticipate, at this point, we've got $500,000 in ARPA funds that the city has as a contribution. We've received a $500,000 grant from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, the water, or the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant.
And so those usually come with timelines.
Yeah, I think,
Construction.
yeah,
Is our plan in line with making sure we
yeah,
secure that?
we'll confirm that, but I'm pretty confident we're still in
Okay.
good shape with respect to those two. So we have $1 million secured.
Mhm.
So the balance of that would be funded with a bond. And so one of the things we were looking at was really, okay, what revenue sources are available to pay that? When we looked closely at the anticipated impact fees are estimated at about $100,000 per year moving forward if we continue to grow at the rate that we are today.
Mhm.
And the debt service on this, I want to say, was somewhere in the $140,000 range or something like that. So most of it will get picked up with the impact fees, but not all of it. And so we'll have to budget some additional money in the budget or in the parks budget to be able to cover it. But Dana has looked at it and has been comfortable with that, and it's recommended approval. So
How many years out again would the bond be?
that's a 19-year bond.
19.
Yep.
Oh, wow, that's a lot longer than I thought.
Yep. Yeah.
I thought they'd cut them off at like,
Yeah, they did have to shorten it a little bit because of the playground equipment that can't be financed quite as long, but the others, can be financed a full 20 years. So the net ends up being a 19-year bond.
have we talked at all in the last year or so about seeking out donations? People who might be interested in putting their name on this or that?
We did. I got to get that back in front of this group, don't I? And I know I mentioned that.
I asked
So,
that question last
Yep.
meeting.
yeah, I've got to get that donation policy moving again. So let me do that.
I'd seriously like looking at that because I know some folks who, for lack of a better word, have some deep pockets that might be interested in donating something. A personal and commercial standpoint.
Yep.
If they, they could see their name on something, I think they'd be willing to do it. And that could significantly offset the cost.
I've asked this before, and I probably got an answer, but I don't remember what it was. Is there any concern about the fact that there's only one place to drive into the park? There's no place to get out. If there was an accident up there blocking that driveway, people would be stranded.
Mhm.
Well,
Remember talking about that a few years ago.
And we talked
looked
about
at-
whether or not coming in beside the old Lions building down there off of Granville Street might be a possibility. Can we look at that a little bit and see if there might be an option there?
I think the grade change is such that it makes it not feasible, but we'll ask the design team to look at that again.
It was a grade change issue as well as
Yeah.
that danger curve that we call it the death curve. I hate to say that, but some, we refer to it that way sometimes, coming around that 37 into town. It's kind of a
Yes.
blind area and people, when they're there, even if it's 25 or 35 mile per zone, they'll come flying in there at 50.
Yeah, that's true.
And, that combined with the grade, I don't think it's gonna be feasible, although that crosswalk
Mhm.
pedestrian entrance, I think is what we have here with the crosswalk.
Yeah,
So we'll still have that.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is also gets a little bit connected to the State Route 37 widening project as well. The widening project comes just about right up to where this
Right.
pedestrian crossing would be. So I think we had talked about trying to combine the two, or at least,
just give it a
I'm sure
little.
somebody
thought,
is
if
thinking
you-
about
If you
it.
don't mind, just give it a little thought.
yes, understood, understood.
Okay.
The engineer makes a note of that. Looks like she's making a good note of that.
Okay, any more discussion on J.R. Smith? Well, do we have any signage costs in that 3.5 million?
Yeah, I think it does have, yeah, we'll confirm that. Let us confirm that. I know they did give us an image of a couple of potential signs. But we've got, I think, a bigger strategy going on with respect to signage that we want to pursue. So,
Okay. Consistency throughout,
Yes.
right? Okay, very good.
And we do have ADA accessible playground equipment.
that is the plan.
That's the plan. Yeah.
Mhm.
I know we've talked about it and I wanted to say it out loud again.
No, it's been a while since we've talked about the details, so it's worth
Yeah.
doing for sure.
All right, very good. Let's go. That's it for unfinished business. Let's go to new business. We want to talk about the Eagle Adventure Camp.
That's gonna be on packet page 20. This is the Eagle Adventure Camp that is put on by Jody Greiger, who's a teacher with Big Walnut Schools. This will be their third year doing this. It's gonna run from June 2nd to June 27th, and then July 7th through July 18th, from 9 AM to 4 PM. It is a rain or shine kind of thing. A lot of the events don't take place at the shelter house. They use the shelter house as the meeting point, and then they do off-site activities, but they'll also be doing archery courses and water balloon fights and stuff like that at Jerry. We've had no issues in the past with them. This has gone through fire, police, and services. Everybody's given it a thumbs up. All proceeds go back to the school, so any money collected goes back to the schools.
This is staged over there at the GRE pavilion, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's really changing. You said,
No, nothing's really changed with the
same thing.
application. They have the same setup. I think they added an extra week this year, and that's about it.
We haven't had any issues in the past.
Nope.
Did you need our approval?
Yeah, so this is gonna take up the park from 9 AM until 4 PM-ish. They're usually out of there sooner. The only parking they'll take up is 5 spaces about for staff. And they'll be busing the kids in and out. They don't restrict the use of the shelter house if someone comes up. They've always let them use the bathroom if needed, but they do use that as their base camp.
Have we had any pushback or feedback, negative feedback at all the last 3 years? Nobody's concerned.
Nobody said anything. They're pretty good about cleaning up everything and taking care of the shelter house.
And the kids are dropped off by a bus. They're not taking up the whole parking lot. So people still have access to the walking trail throughout the whole park and all that kind of stuff. So it's,
Good. Fantastic. So no objection here. You're okay with everything, Mr. Martin?
oh yeah.
Okay, that's all you need, right?
Yeah, as Amber alluded to, the reason it's in front of the Parks Committee is because they're using a city park for over, I think it's over 6 hours. We're going to go back, I think, and we'll bring what we call the decision-making matrix back, just maybe as a refresher to the committee. Like, why do some of these events come to you and others do not? There is a threshold that an event has to pass before it comes to you. So not every event that happens in the park comes to you. But if they're tying up resources that may limit the use of other residents to use the park, those are the types of things we want to get in front of you.
Okay, fantastic. All right, let's move on. I think we're done there. Next is the Light It Up Kinslow Disc Golf Event.
Okay, so this one is a disc golf tournament that will be put on by the Old Tangy Disc Club. It is open to the public, so anybody can register to play. They will be doing 2 rounds of disc golf there, one in the day and then one in the evening. And if you remember, council has approved the nighttime use of Kinslow Park for this. This is the second year they've done this event at Kinslow. We haven't had any issues with this group. They will be charging $50 a person or $90 per team. Those fees go back into the tournament, into the cash prizes, food, and cost of the tournament itself.
How many people do they anticipate?
72.
And so when it breaks up, do we need to be prepared to have a police officer out there to help get traffic out of the park on Route 61?
I have not had an issue with any of these events yet, and the police have given their thumbs up on this and they
Okay.
haven't raised any
All right.
concerns.
I just, people fly up and down that road like they own it,
Yeah, they're pretty good because some of them stay back to clean up anyway, so they're not all exiting at once.
At the
So-
same time, okay.
But they will be having a food truck at this one. I've already spoke to the fire department. The food truck that they're bringing has already cleared inspections. So, but the fire department will be back out there that day to double check everything because they'll have tents as well. So,
Okay,
but other than that, every department has given it a thumbs up. Jake has never had an issue with this group and the cleanup. So on our side, we have no reason not to approve it.
All right, very good. Any issues? Mr. Martin?
No.
Okay. No objections here.
Thank you.
All right. When was that event again?
419.
April 19th, okay. All right, other parks business, looking for the monthly park update.
So we don't have it for this month since there's not much going on in the parks. We did have an event, what's it, last weekend, a few weekends ago?
Oh, there was a disc golf ice tournament at Kenslow hosted by the Flyers, and they had a very successful event.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I'm glad we're getting use out of that.
Yeah.
That's a great park.
It is a great park. And maybe one other little bit of a lead. I think we've talked about maybe Eagle Scouts helping with projects. So I know Alyssa is working with an Eagle Scout on a potential project in one of our other parks. So we'll be back with more details on that soon, hopefully.
Awesome. Any other unfinished business, Mr. Martin?
not that I'm aware of.
I had one item I wanted to bring up. So the Reservoir Park, drive by there all the time. Keep looking for some signage.
Mhm.
I presume you guys have some signage plans for that. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm asking about that. That's probably it's probably being delayed until you come up with your strategy, right? Signage strategy for everything.
Yes, I'm going to say the answer to that is yes. I mean, I do have a draft scope of work to basically do design services for all of the city park signs
Okay.
and parking spaces. We haven't gone public with that yet, seeking consultants to assist us with that, but I would anticipate that happens in the next 30 to 60 days. We have placed some temporary signs at a couple of the other parks to at least identify them. Kind of a mixed response in terms of how people are viewing the signs.
Okay.
So we'd prefer to not invest too much money in signs with the understanding that, again, I think there's a much bigger plan ahead for signs.
Sounds like then within 4 to 6 months, we would have one.
Well,
Probably
again,
there.
we'll get the proposal out. We'll need to seek, design consultants willing to do the work. And then we'll have to work through, how long does it take to do some design? So it's the signage on the building. I mean, if you look at the city building right now, you see essentially the old sign and a reference to the police department. So it would be that sign, it would be our parks, it would be our parking lots. And it depends on how far we go, whether there's a little bit of wayfinding signage as well for just pointing people to downtown and sort of the major points of interest. So
Is that all part of the streetscape committee or is that something totally different?
So it's kind of come up in a variety of places. It's come up in the Parks Committee, it's come up in streetscapes, it's come up in traffic. I think we talked a little bit about it in maybe our last strategic planning session. So it's been out there for a while. It just hasn't risen to the level where we're ready to prioritize it. But I think I've gotten enough feedback that we're ready to prioritize it.
Okay.
Plus, we're going to have an incredible park down the street here in a year and a half. So
Absolutely.
we're going to have a parking lot over here and maybe at the end of the year. So there you go.
Yeah, really?
Definitely by the end of the year.
Just
There you
over
go.
here in that corner?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's good to know.
Speaking of signs, coming into town on Cheshire Road,
Mhm.
the welcome to Sunbury sign. At night, it's completely black, but the sign that says Joe St. John Mayor is reflective. And I'm wondering why I can read his name, but I can't read the name of the town. It's completely black at night.
It's because Joe put that one in. Maybe he
His
did.
name sign must be reflective
Yeah.
material.
Newer one.
So, yeah.
I think they all are actually, as you
Okay.
enter into town.
All right.
That is one of the things I have asked our service supervisor to do. We do at a minimum need to get out and clean those signs up and paint them until we get them replaced. So again, I know this issue is coming up. That's not going to necessarily improve the visibility of the sign, but
It might be worth getting little solar lights that you can shine at them. So, you know,
maybe. I'm not sure that they would do a lot.
but you see the sign and say, what's he the mayor of?
Well, there you go. There you go. Who's this Joe St. John guy, right?
All right, I think that about wraps it up if there's no other unfinished business. Next meeting appears to be March the 5th, the first Wednesday of the month at 5:30 PM. Any other discussion?
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Martin with a motion to adjourn, I will second that. Roll call.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Ghost,
Yes.
2 yeas, we are adjourned.